text.
A reminder. Yeah.
8:05, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Congressman Mark Green, always great to have you on the program. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. So there's obviously, as you know, clearly you're there, a lot going on in Washington, D.C. I want to play for you a piece of audio. Jeff, need my audio up. This is Alejandro Mayorkas on Fox News. This was yesterday afternoon.
In the year 2021, 703 encounters of those coming over the border on the terror watch list. How can we be sure that ISIS won't find a safe harbor here?
So one of the things that we've got to ask, of course, is the terror attack in New Orleans yesterday. But Mayorkas swears that there's no way that ISIS is going to find safe harbor here. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's the stupidest thing on the planet. It's sort of like, the king has no clothes, I guess. I can't even really come up with an analogy. The southern border has been wide open for 4 years. And the FBI director made it very clear there's no way to know who has or hasn't come across that southern border. So to make any definitive statement like that is just a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And it wouldn't be the first time for Mayorkas.
Well, I know that you impeached him, and I was joking earlier. You weren't on the phone yet, but you have spent hours listening to Alejandro Mayorkas filibuster and bloviate and really just he's kind of an expert. Somebody else said, I think it was Bill Hagerty, Senator Hagerty said that Mayorkas has become really expert in just filibustering and not really answering questions.
He's the best at it I've ever seen. And I've been here now 6 years. This next term will hopefully make 8 for me. I've never seen anyone with the capability of not answering the question and just logging that 5 minutes that each congressman gets when they get their question time. So he is. Yeah, I was quoted correctly. I mean, I said some not very flattering things about him in a meeting with the Republicans. I mean, he is deceptive to say the least.
I had forgotten what it was that you called him, but I think we get the idea.
Yeah.
When we talk about the southern border, then we're going to get to the speaker race. But when you talk about the threats that have coming across our southern border, obviously we're very thankful that there's a new administration coming in. We do have Donald Trump wanting to do this mass deportation. Some states are saying that they're going to resist that. But seems to me day one, it's not a simple fix, but the fix is obvious what Donald Trump has to do on day one regarding the southern border, which is re-implement Remain in Mexico and begin building the wall, rebuilding the wall again. What else does he have to do, and what can Congress do to reinforce border security?
Well, we will have a huge part of H.R. 2, and you'll remember from last Congress, H.R. 2 was my bill and Jim Jordan's bill that we merged together to get border security and immigration security issues taken care of. A big chunk of that will be in the reconciliation bill that comes in the first, 100 and 150 days of the administration. And that will get us Congress's side of that, which is the authorizing laws that allow the department to execute border security. That will happen. I mean, we're briefing on it tomorrow amongst fellow Republicans, but that's sort of Congress's piece. What the president's got to do is just what he did last time: executive orders that shut the border, that direct detention of people who come across the border. We have to stop working with these NGOs that are essentially selling the sovereignty of this country away. And so the list is long. It's probably going to be a combined 10 to 15 executive orders that happen as soon as he gets in there. In fact, I'm meeting with Tom Homan today to discuss some of that stuff. So, long list. You mentioned Remain in Mexico. There are also the agreements that allow us to return people to those countries. Those have to be restarted. We're on it. We've got our list of to-do things, and we're knocking them off.
I know that there seems to be a conversation going on within the Republican Party, and it's a very difficult topic to deal with, but A lot of folks have been advocating for a ban on TikTok. You've got President Trump now that he is trying to step in and try and negotiate some sort of a solution here. We all know that China is a big time threat to America. Do you think that Congress and President Trump and the Republicans were able to come together on this?
I do believe that we will come together with a solution, and I think President Trump is trying to thread the needle. He doesn't want Facebook and Meta and those companies to not have competition. He sees TikTok as a competitor, but he also recognizes the threat that it is in its current structure, being owned by a Chinese parent company that falls under the 2017 security law in China that requires those companies to give all their data to China, the Communist Party, right? So he gets the threat, but he also recognizes that Facebook, who owned that they followed the direction of the former White House, of the current administration, and restricted free speech, throttled down. They admitted all that. So Trump wants a competitor to Facebook. I think his original plan from last time he was in the White House of having an American company take over, own it, might be the solution we get to. I don't know. But you understand his motivation. Our motivation is this is a threat. I mean, we got China in our telecoms. We've got China now hacking the Treasury Department just a few weeks ago. This is a hostile country to the United States. We have to act on this and protect Americans' data.
Has there been, it's been a minute since you and I have spoken, but obviously you've been kept abreast of all these drones off of the coast of New Jersey and in other places across America. There was, these drones around the some nuclear sites as well, it was reported. So, and then it kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Where is that story? What's going on with the drones, if anything?
Well, clearly, there isn't enough transparency from DOD, DOJ, and DHS on this issue. I will tell you that from our standpoint in Congress, passing my drone bill to grant authority to local law enforcement and states to take down drones, it's going to be one of my number one priorities for next Congress because DHS, DOD, those guys can't be everywhere at one time. But local law enforcement with the right criteria, with the right equipment, can disable a drone and take it down and then find out what it is. We know that Chinese nationals have operated drones inside our country. We just arrested a guy a few weeks ago who had flown one over our space base out in California. So, we need more transparency on this current issue. We're still not getting it. We're still demanding it. And we've got to pass this legislation of mine that will grant authority to local and state law enforcement because that is ultimately going to be the protection line for the country.
All right, big debate going on today. The vote for House Speaker Mike Johnson, should he retain the gavel? What's your thought on that? It's a very complicated issue with Donald Trump coming in and supporting Mike Johnson when you have a lot of the people that are aligned with Donald Trump against Mike Johnson.
So this is a challenge, right? Republicans represent their districts. Democrats represent their ideology. So they vote lockstep. We don't vote lockstep. We vote our districts. And so there are a lot of people across the country that are frustrated with particularly this most recent CR that Mike just was very weak on the way he handled that. And so people are like, what the heck? That's not what we're looking for. But Trump is about his agenda, and he thinks getting a speaker in place and moving on to getting that agenda advanced. Recall, he only has 4 years, which means 2, really, when it comes to making substantive changes for the country. So Trump is like, let's not waste any time, put Speaker Johnson in, and let's move forward. And so I'll be voting for Johnson because of that. But there are others out there that are just like, this guy's made promises that he hasn't lived up to, and they want to make some demands, and I don't blame them for doing that.
One of the things I find interesting about this whole thing is just apparently there's a lot of jockeying behind the scenes to get him to make certain promises. I find all of that fascinating. But does it look like, and this final question, because I know you've got to go. Final question, though. They're still jockeying. They're still, from what I understand, negotiating. Do you think that he's ultimately going to get the votes?
Yes, I think he will. The extremes of our party, you've got, if you go one direction, you lose the other side, right? Yep. So it is a balancing act. It's a job. It's the hardest job in America, being Speaker of the House, because especially with this thin majority, and especially with Republicans, because again, we represent our districts. So you're asking for a prediction. I mean, I think Mike gets the gavel. It's going to be, sewing a very porous cloth together. That's the best analogy. I mean, it's just It's going to be tough. He's going to have to negotiate to the very end and try to stitch the ends together.
How hard is it going to be? I promise, this will be the final question. How hard is it going to be for you guys to get things done? I know that you've got a very slim, it's going to be a 5-seat majority in the House. How hard is that going to be to get things done? Or will it be hard?
I think on some things, it'll be very easy. On some things, it's going to be hard. When it comes to budget, that's going to be very difficult. Reconciliation, for example, we are working very hard to make sure that everyone is aligned on what we can get accomplished that will substantively change the way the country spends money. For example, block granting Medicaid to the states. That's going to save an enormous amount of money at the federal level, just administering it at the federal level. So, big ticket ideas like that, pretty much everybody's on board with, and so you'll see some things happen, some pretty big things happen, but there'll be some small pieces that are just nail biters to the end.
All right. Thank you, as always, Congressman Mark Green, joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Good luck today, and have a great weekend. 8:17, running late, but worth it. Super Talk 99.7, and time to, a little bit late, but time to check the roads.